Do you see why he flips his cone here? Right. So I mean, let's review a couple things first of all. So, because it uses the same concept. Remember how I just mentioned how we could see a glimpse of Edgy, right? Like earlier, he's literally just building, and we see a glimpse of him right here at the bottom. So that helps us to understand where he is. Now, there's another way to figure out where your enemy is. Actually, let's call it two other ways. One is audio, so you can get a general location of where your enemy is through audio. The other is built, right?
Oh,
now you can get fooled by this
Direction of
sometimes, right? But recently building builds, because you get if there's two builds next to each other and one is weaker than the other, it's more transparent than the other, then that's where he was most recently. Like right here we see Edgy, but later we don't see him, but we see his builds coming through, and so we know he's right here. I know where he is, right? Because of the edits. Now, a lot of people don't do this consciously. A lot of people play the game and don't actually follow this. They're like, I need to see the enemy to know where he is. That's not true. Now you can get blessed sometimes, like we just saw him right there, but you can get the information sometimes. But that's actually a completely unrealistic way to play Fortnite, is to like expect to always see your enemy. No, you need to deduce. But the biggest pattern that you can recognize just from watching this is absolutely the high walls, right?
Yeah.
He high wall pieces and then looks for enemy and then decides what to do after. He flips this cone Y because he sees Edgy, and Edgy has that wall. So it's almost like it's very similar to fencing, what Fortnite is. You're spacing between each other and you're looking for strikes on the enemy, and like full boxing someone is essentially running forward with the sword, and because you see an angle and you jump at him, right? That's basically what peace control, like getting the full box is. And you're trying to get that full box the whole time. They're fighting each other the whole time here. They haven't shot a shot, but there's a lot of pressure because of the fact that both of them are trying to piece each other. Right there, you see he's trying, but he doesn't get it because Edgy runs out. Tries to flip this because this is Edgy's wall right here. He never placed that. Another skill is absolutely understanding what you place and what you didn't place. Is this Edgy's wall or Pxlarized's wall? The way you can tell is something like very similar to yeah. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I think it's Edgy's. I think I see like a slight red line, but I could be going crazy.
No, it's right. That's absolutely right. That is Edgy's wall. Right. Another way you could tell, because sometimes you don't have the time or like the ability to check if it's red or whatever, is sometimes like I have such a good feeling of when I place builds and when they're supposed to place. If something placed and it kind of placed off timing, like I placed it, I don't know, like 2 seconds into the fight, but then it placed a second into the fight, it must be his because I didn't place it that fast. Why did it get placed? You know what I mean? It must be his. He placed it. Because sometimes you might not be fortunate to have a different match, so like, he used his wood as well, so that's like really confusing. But no, there's a timing to it. So if something gets placed a little bit earlier or a little bit later, it's definitely because they placed it, right? So there is such a thing as right hand and left hand piece control. I mean, no one calls it that, but like I'll explain what that means, which is basically just that it's easier to piece control around to your right, and it's, if you think about Edgy's perspective, he has a left-hand piece control opportunity in terms of the fight for this wall, and so it's gonna be harder for Edgy, not impossible, but harder and way less convenient and easy for Edgy to place this wall, which is why Pxlarized gets it first. Even you can literally see Edgy trying to place it, but he doesn't. He will never get to it first if they both go for it. They're at the same time and the same positioning, so that's not gonna be easy for him.
Yeah, big things I'm seeing, like, you know, like, comparing myself, obviously, there are a lot of differences, but the big things are, one, is, like, the usage of cones, and how he extends it, and how often he extends them. The second thing is, like you said, the high walls, and the third thing is, like, changing directions faster. Like, for me, I recognize it a lot slower, and so by the time I change directions, it's too late, and I either get shot, or I die, or I just walk into the enemy's.
And how do you fix that? How do you get used to changing directions faster? What's the best actionable way to do that?
Is it just like running at them? Just like being aware of like where they are?
I mean, like it is the correct identification of what the problem is. It's not a good solution. So what's the solution is pattern recognition, right? Yeah. And the way you get pattern recognition, unfortunately, this is the real answer. Like this answer sucks too a little bit, but this is just the reality is just playing a lot. Because if you get into the same situation, it's very similar to like how people say, if you get bit by the tiger, you don't go near the tiger again. Pattern recognition, right? Like it's the same thing. So if you die to the same scenario of you not getting out like fast enough 10 times, you'll realize it's a bad situation faster because you've been there before. The main reason I have all these instincts is because I played a lot. right? And
Yeah.
now it's important that you play against someone that's better than you, if possible, so that you get calibrated properly and you get punished properly. Because if you fight someone that's worse than you or equal to you, I mean, ideally you should fight someone who's the best option you have, because not everyone has like a pro to fight or whatever. But essentially, if you fight someone that's like a good enough skill level, then they will punish you for all the mistakes and indirectly, non-verbally tell you exactly what you're doing wrong. Whereas fighting someone mediocre will never do that. And so, yeah, it is just reps at the end of the day. It's how you fix awareness. Telling someone they should have been aware is tough, but telling them the way to fix it is like reps is probably the right answer. But yeah, like, I mean, a really good example is this. This is not obvious that it's coming. But it is for him, and I can see it too, right? What's coming? It's the ramp flip into the wall edit.
Yeah.
You see how you literally see how he pulls out his shotgun well before any edit was made. That's pattern recognition. That's because he's been in this situation before. He knows it could come. So there's two cases. It doesn't happen and Pxlarized has his shotgun out. No harm done. Cool. It does happen and Pxlarized has his shotgun out. He wins. And look at his movement as well. Does he have something to reset in this instance? No. Right? Not at all. But he moves it to a position where he does.
Yep.
And he catches the shot. Now he misses, but that's okay, because it's like, if you just do everything else properly, you will never 100% not get hit. Because when Edgy edits that after Pxlarized pulls out his gun, he will never have his gun ready before Edgy is. He will never have his gun ready before Pxlarized does. Right? So it's a lot of people underestimate this, but Fortnite is a lot about who has their gun out first. A lot, because that shoot reset play is in action, and I think playing around that is fundamental to the game. Like, that's how you fight. I mean, so it's funny. It's like all this stuff is less important. This stuff is less important. Because you can be very, very close to as good as Pxlarized without that stuff, believe it or not. A lot of his stuff has to do with his decisions and how he plays the game and his awareness and all that. And obviously awareness has to be trained through reps and stuff. What is the first thing he does after shooting him? This is almost instinctual, because even if he doesn't one pump him, he's out the door. He gets out. Right? He turns and gets out. That's not some like stylish thing. Like he does it because he needs to leave.
Yeah.
Because, like, what does he have something to reset? No, so he's gonna stand, he's gonna run to a spot where he has something to reset. Worst case scenario.
You killed me in cash cow. GG, unlucky, bro. Sorry, man.
Okay. Gets the back wall there. Edgy has the 90.
Yeah, I've been going for like trying for a lot of like the high walls or like some of like the cheeky side jumps that he'll do here and there. It's so funny. It results in me like falling off a lot, but it's kind of funny. Sometimes I wonder like what my opponents are thinking. Like, oh my god, what's this guy doing?
Yeah, no, I understand, and I think side jumps are powerful, but they have to be done selectively, because by nature they're exposed. Like they you know, like you need to do a protected side jump. So I think you just need to do them selectively. That was a good shot. The one thing is though, a thing I just saw that I want to mention. So you see how Pxlarized gets hits here, right here. You might ask yourself, why is that? In my opinion, it's because he missed the edit and then went for it anyway. So I have a hard rule. There are some exceptions to the rule, but very rare. So most of the time, 95% of the time, if you miss an edit, don't go for it again.
Yeah.
Because people are paying attention. Even the bad people. And what are they paying attention to? They're paying attention to what you're doing. And so if you miss an edit, like I can literally see it when my enemy misses an edit. They pull out blueprint, they pull out the pencil like as if they're drawing, and then an edit doesn't come through. And then I see them pull out the pencil again, and what do I know they're about to do? They're gonna make an edit on me. Right? And I can also see literally what edit they're gonna make, because on the previous attempt that they failed, they made a motion. Like they looked around. So I can tell if they're doing a peanut butter, I can tell if they're doing like a 6-tile wide edit, like I can tell. It's very obvious. And so like I know exactly what edit they're gonna make. It's really easy for me to set it up. And when they do the second edit, I'm ready on the second edit to shoot them. So it's really important. If you miss an edit, don't go for it again. It's better to just give it up altogether. The part of Fortnite is surprising your opponent to a degree, and I think if you try to go for the same edit twice, especially if you failed it the first time, then it's not gonna be good. Like you're gonna have bad things happen to you. Yeah, you know, so the main reason why, I'm sure you can tell, the main reason why Pxlarized takes his time here is because as he just shot, he's completely safe.
Yeah, so he goes for the 200 there.
200 takes his time, yeah. Audio is very important. You gotta be able to tell when your opponent takes a shot.
actually been noticing that quite a lot with him, even in ranked and stuff.
he's very
if he knows
conscious of
that
it.
the other guy doesn't have the shot, he will line up like the perfect shot.
You would be surprised how little most pros like take advantage of that. Like it's, sorry, I won't say that. That's not true. Most pros do take advantage of that. Some pros still don't, which surprises me.
Yeah. I guess another thing too is just like my crosshair placement, like for builds and edits and stuff.
Yes.
I don't know. Is that just like also just reps, or is there any particular?
To a degree, obviously everything is reps, but there is actual advice that I can help you with that.
Yeah.
Most people want, like, biggest reason why most people suck at crosshair placement isn't because they suck at crosshair placement, it's because they don't know where their enemy is. So how can you possibly look? That was a really good shot. Holy shit. How can you possibly crosshair place your enemy if you have no idea where he is? It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's a prerequisite. You need to know where your enemy is, which is why I started off like the session and looking voting Polarized is like by opening with that. Hey, this is how you keep track of your enemy. This is the multiple ways you can find out where they are, right? So even if you're not looking towards them like this, you can know where they are through audio and builds and edits. And audio is not just footsteps, right? It is builds and edits as well. You know if someone edited on you behind you if he edited. Like you can keep track of that, right? So like all of these things, like tracking is a big deal. That was very close. What you can do is try to, very similar to like how you know, progressive overload in a gym, you do the same with like reps, right? You try to push yourself out of your comfort zone to a decent degree. You don't try to, that was a good ramp flip. You don't try to, how do I say it? Only play at the level that you know you can play at. Because that's not progressive. That doesn't do anything. Right? Like if you don't push yourself, I'll give you a good example. I have teammates, I definitely have teammates whose mechanics have not progressed over the course of 3 years. Or progressed very little. And in my opinion, it's because they never pushed themselves in creative. They tried to play perfectly. Right? There's two types of people. People who are too experimental and then people who are, you know, not experimental at all. And if you're not experimental at all, that's a really bad formula for growth. Right? It's really, really bad.
Yep. I had like this coach in Overwatch a few months ago, and well, not a few months ago, like a year ago.
Yep.
And he would always say that the difference between someone that gets better and someone that doesn't is the ones that play to win and the ones that play to learn. And he would kind of always tell me to just like not play to win and just like play to learn. So I guess that's kind of like what you're talking about, where
I think the reason he gave you that advice,
you know?
the reason he gave you that advice is because he identified you as someone who, what do you call it? Was someone who played to win too much.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
Because there are people who are too experimental and never play to win. They're like, oh, this is practice. There are people like that. In that case, you would give them the opposite advice. You would give them, hey, you need to take this more seriously because when it comes tournament time, you're still going to be experimental, and that's not right either. So it's basically, you need to center them. Are they too far left or too far right? And you need to center them.